Marcus Chen sat alone at table 17 in the Starlight Cafe, watching the ice cubes slowly melt in his third glass of water. The restaurant hummed with conversations from other diners, their laughter and chatter making his solitude feel even more pronounced. He checked his phone again. 8:47 p.m. His blind date had been scheduled for 7 o'clock. The waitress, a kind woman with silver hair, approached his table for the fourth time. "Sir, would you like to order something while you wait?" Marcus shook his head, forcing a polite smile. "No, thank you. I think I'll be leaving soon." He had given up hope 40 minutes ago but stayed out of sheer stubbornness. His friend Jake had sworn this woman would be perfect for him. "She's brilliant," Jake had said. "Works in xenobiology research at the colony. Beautiful, funny, and definitely your type." Marcus sighed and reached for his jacket. Another failed attempt at dating. At 32, he was beginning to accept that maybe relationships weren't meant for him. His work as an engineer on the Mars Europa transport ships kept him busy enough. Who needed companionship when you had the vast expanse of space to explore? As he stood to leave, he noticed a small figure standing beside his table. A little girl, no more than 6 or 7 years old, stared up at him with enormous golden eyes. Her skin had an unusual shimmer to it, like pearl dust under moonlight. Most striking were the small, iridescent scales that traced delicate patterns along her temples and the backs of her hands. "Excuse me," the child said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "Are you Marcus Chen?" Marcus blinked in surprise and slowly sat back down. "Yes, I am. And who might you be?" The little girl smiled, revealing teeth that were just a bit too sharp to be entirely human. "I'm Lyra. My mom is sorry she's late." Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. His date had a daughter? Jake hadn't mentioned that. And clearly, this child was not entirely human. The scales, the golden eyes, the musical quality of her voice. She was a hybrid. "Your mom is?" Marcus asked gently. "Dr. Serafina Drake," Lyra announced proudly. "She's the best xenobiologist in the whole solar system. She got stuck at work because the Draconis ambassador had an emergency." Draconis. Marcus had heard of them, of course. Everyone had. The dragon-like species had made first contact with humanity 20 years ago. They were highly intelligent, technologically advanced, and physically magnificent. They were also notoriously private about their culture and biology. "Why don't you sit down, Lyra?" Marcus suggested, pulling out a chair for her. "Would you like something to drink while we wait for your mom?" Lyra climbed onto the chair, her movements graceful despite her small size. "Can I have orange juice? Mom says I can't have caffeine because it makes me breathe fire." Marcus couldn't tell if she was joking or not. He signaled the waitress and ordered orange juice for Lyra and coffee for himself. "So, Lyra," Marcus said, studying the child with curiosity. "How old are you?" "I'm 6 3/4, she replied, swinging her legs under the table. "Mom says I'm advanced for my age. I can already do calculus and speak 7 languages. 7 languages? That's impressive. 3 human languages and 4 Draconis dialects," Lyra clarified. "Mom says I got my dad's brain. He was really smart." Marcus noticed the past tense. "Was?" Lyra's expression grew somber. "He died when I was a baby. Mom says he was a hero. He saved a whole human colony from a reactor meltdown." The pieces were starting to come together in Marcus's mind. Dr. Serafina Drake, a xenobiologist who worked closely with the Draconis. A daughter who was clearly half human, half Draconis. A father who had died as a hero. "That's very brave of him," Marcus said softly. "Mom says bravery runs in our family," Lyra said, brightening again. "She's brave, too. She's the only human the Draconis Council trusts with their medical secrets." The orange juice arrived, and Lyra sipped it carefully, her golden eyes never leaving Marcus's face. "You're not scared of me," she observed. "Should I be scared of you?" Marcus asked with a smile. Lyra giggled. "Some people are. They see my scales and run away. Mom says they're narrow-minded idiots. Your mom sounds like a smart woman." "She is. She's also pretty and funny and makes the best pancakes in the galaxy. But she's terrible at being on time." Lyra leaned forward conspiratorially. She was really nervous about tonight. She changed her outfit 4 times. Marcus found himself charmed by this unusual little girl. "Did she send you to check me out first?" Lyra shook her head, her dark hair shimmering with hidden scales. "No. She doesn't know I'm here. I snuck out when the babysitter fell asleep. I wanted to see if you were good enough for my mom. And what's your verdict? Lyra tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that seemed beyond her years. You have kind eyes. And you didn't run away when you saw me. That's a good start. Before Marcus could respond, a commotion erupted near the restaurant entrance. A woman burst through the door, her white lab coat billowing behind her. She was tall and athletic, with auburn hair pulled back in a messy bun. Her face was flushed, and she looked slightly panicked. Her gaze swept the restaurant until it landed on their table. The relief on her face was palpable. Lyra! She rushed over, her voice a mixture of worry and exasperation. What are you doing here? Mrs. Patterson called me in a panic. She woke up and you were gone. I wanted to meet Marcus, Lyra said simply. You were late, and I thought he might leave. The woman, Dr. Serafina Drake, Marcus presumed, turned to him with mortification written across her features. She was beautiful, he realized, with intelligent green eyes and a sprinkle of freckles across her nose. I am so sorry, she said in a rush. This is not how I planned this evening. First, the Draconis ambassador had a medical emergency. Then my daughter decided to play escape artist. And now I'm standing here in my lab coat looking like I just ran a marathon, which I basically did because I sprinted 6 blocks from the hospital. She paused to catch her breath, then continued. You must be Marcus. I'm Sarah. I completely understand if you want to run for the exit. This is probably the worst first impression in the history of blind dates. Marcus stood and extended his hand. Actually, I think it's one of the more interesting ones. Your daughter has been delightful company. Sarah shook his hand, her grip firm and warm. She told you she's half Draconis? Yes. She mentioned the fire-breathing thing with caffeine. Oh God. She didn't actually demonstrate. Did she? No, but I admit I'm curious now. Sarah's laugh was rich and genuine. Trust me, singed eyebrows are not a good look on anyone. She turned to her daughter with a stern expression. Lyra, we've talked about sneaking out. It's dangerous and wrong. But Mom, you were late, and Marcus was going to leave, I could tell. That doesn't make it okay. Sarah's expression softened. But we'll discuss this at home. She looked at Marcus apologetically. I should get her back. I'm sorry about ruining our date. Maybe we could try again sometime? Without the dramatic entrance and runaway child. Marcus glanced at his watch. It was only 9 o'clock. Or, he suggested, we could salvage what's left of this evening. I haven't eaten yet, and I bet Lyra hasn't had dinner either. Lyra perked up. I'm starving. Can we stay, Mom, please? Sarah hesitated, clearly torn. Are you sure? This isn't exactly conventional. Nothing about tonight has been conventional, Marcus pointed out. But it's certainly been memorable. Besides, I'd like to hear about the Draconis ambassador's emergency, if you're allowed to share. A slow smile spread across Sarah's face. It involved a severe allergic reaction to earth chocolate. Turns out their physiology really doesn't agree with theobromine. Chocolate is poison to dragons? Marcus asked, fascinated. More like extremely intoxicating. Ambassador Thanix ate an entire box of truffles and started reciting ancient mating poetry to a potted plant. Lyra giggled. He said the fern had the most beautiful fronds he'd ever seen. Marcus laughed, a genuine, surprised sound. Please, stay for dinner. Both of you. Sarah slipped off her lab coat, revealing a simple but elegant blue dress underneath. Well, I did spend an hour picking out this outfit. It would be a shame to waste it. As they settled around the table, Marcus found himself reassessing the evening. What had started as another failed date had transformed into something unexpected and intriguing. Sarah was brilliant and funny, with a warmth that drew him in. And Lyra, well, Lyra was extraordinary. So, Sarah said, after they'd ordered their meals. Jake tells me you're an engineer on the transport ships. That must be exciting. It has its moments, Marcus replied. Though nothing quite as exciting as treating intoxicated dragon ambassadors. Most days are routine, Sarah admitted. Today was definitely an exception. She watched Lyra carefully cutting her chicken into small pieces. I should probably mention, if you're not comfortable with the whole interspecies thing, I completely understand. Not everyone is okay with it. Marcus considered his words carefully. I think, he said slowly, that love is rare enough in this universe without putting artificial boundaries on it. Your daughter is proof that connection can transcend species. Syrah's eyes softened. Her father said something similar once. He said the heart recognizes what the heart recognizes, regardless of the form it takes. Sounds like he was a wise man. He was. Sarah's voice carried old grief and fond memories. Thandar was exceptional. The first Draconis to truly trust humans. He believed our species could learn from each other, grow together. His death was a loss for both our peoples. Mom doesn't date much, Lyra interjected, her mouth full of mashed potatoes. She says most men are intimidated by our family. Lyra. Syrah's cheeks flushed pink. What? It's true. Remember that guy who saw my scales and asked if I was contagious? Marcus winced. People can be ignorant. That's what Mom said. Except she used a different word that I'm not allowed to repeat. The evening progressed with easy conversation and shared laughter. Marcus learned that Syrah had been recruited by the Draconis Council specifically because of her relationship with Thandar. Her unique position as someone they trusted, combined with her brilliance in xenobiology, made her invaluable in fostering human Draconis relations. The medical exchanges have been remarkable, Sarah explained, her eyes lighting up with passion for her work. Their understanding of genetic adaptation is centuries ahead of ours. They've helped us develop treatments for diseases we thought were incurable. And humans have helped them too, Lyra added proudly. Mom figured out why some Draconis were getting sick on human colonies. It was a mineral deficiency. She simplifies, Sarah said modestly. It was a complex interaction between their photosynthetic scales and artificial lighting systems. Marcus found himself hanging on every word. Syrah's intelligence was matched by her passion, and her love for her daughter was evident in every glance, every gentle correction, every proud smile. As they finished dessert, chocolate cake for the humans, fruit tart for Lyra, Marcus realized he didn't want the evening to end. This has been, he started, then paused, searching for the right words. Weird? Syrah suggested, with a self-deprecating smile. Wonderful, Marcus corrected. Unexpected and wonderful, Lyra yawned, revealing those two sharp teeth again. Does this mean you'll go on another date with my mom? Lyra, that's not polite to ask, Syrah said. But Marcus could see she was curious about his answer too. I'd very much like to see both of you again, Marcus said honestly. If that's okay with you, Lyra. You did say you were checking me out for your mom. Lyra nodded solemnly. You pass. But next time, Mom has to be on time. Deal. Sarah laughed. She stood, gathering Lyra's jacket. We should go. Someone has school tomorrow, and it's way past her bedtime. Marcus stood as well. Can I walk you home? That's kind, but we live in the diplomatic quarter. Security is intense. Because of the Draconis connection? Sarah nodded. Not everyone is happy about human Draconis cooperation. There have been threats. The casual mention of danger sent a chill down Marcus's spine. This woman and her daughter lived with risks he hadn't even considered. Then let me at least walk you to the transit station. Syrah smiled. I'd like that. As they left the restaurant, Lyra slipped her small hand into Marcus's. Her skin was cooler than human normal, and he could feel the slight texture of scales against his palm. Mr. Marcus? She said sleepily. Are you going to marry my mom? Lyra, Syrah gasped. We just met. So, Draconis know their mates instantly. It's all about pheromone compatibility and soul resonance. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. Humans usually take a bit longer to figure things out. That's inefficient, Lyra declared. They walked through the evening crowd, an unusual trio that drew some curious glances. Marcus noticed how Syrah positioned herself protectively between Lyra and any stares that lingered too long. At the transit station, Syrah turned to him. Thank you for tonight, for not running when Lyra showed up, for dinner, for everything. Thank you for giving me a chance after I'd been stood up, Marcus replied. Technically, you weren't stood up. I was just creatively delayed by a dragon ambassador drunk on chocolate. It's definitely going in my memoir someday. They stood there for a moment, neither wanting to break the spell of the evening. Mom, the train, Lyra reminded them, pointing at the approaching lights. Right, Syrah fumbled in her purse for her transit pass. So, Jake has my number. Or I could give it to you directly. If you want. Marcus pulled out his phone. I definitely want. They exchanged numbers quickly as the train pulled into the station. "I'll call you," Marcus promised. "I'll answer," Sarah replied with a smile. As the doors opened, Lyra tugged on Marcus's sleeve. He bent down to her level. "Don't hurt my mom," she whispered, her golden eyes serious. "She's been hurt enough." "I won't," Marcus whispered back. "I promise." Lyra studied him for a moment, then nodded, apparently satisfied. They boarded the train, and Marcus watched through the window as it pulled away. Sarah gave a little wave, and Lyra pressed her face against the glass, making a silly expression that made him laugh. As he walked home, Marcus reflected on the evening. He'd gone to dinner expecting nothing, and had found something potentially extraordinary. A brilliant woman who bridged two species, a remarkable little girl who breathed fire and spoke 7 languages, a family that was redefining what connection could look like in this vast universe. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Lyra says she forgot to tell you the most important thing about dating someone with Draconis heritage." "What's that?" Marcus typed back. "We're very protective of our hordes, and once we decide someone is ours, we don't let go easily." "Still interested?" Marcus grinned at his phone. "More than ever," he replied. As he entered his apartment, Marcus felt a shift in his worldview. The universe suddenly seemed full of possibilities he'd never imagined. Love that crossed species boundaries, children who embodied the best of 2 worlds, futures that defied conventional expectations. He thought about Lyra's words about Draconis knowing their mates instantly. Maybe humans weren't so different after all, because something deep in his chest had recognized something in Sarah and Lyra from the moment they'd entered his life. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo. Lyra already asleep on the train, her head on her mother's shoulder, those pearl-like scales catching the light. "Thank you for seeing us," Sarah's message read. "Both of us." Marcus saved the photo and smiled. Tonight hadn't been the blind date he'd expected. It had been so much more. It had been the beginning of something extraordinary. As he got ready for bed, Marcus found himself already planning their next date. Somewhere Lyra would enjoy. Somewhere that wouldn't involve runaway children or chocolate-intoxicated ambassadors. Somewhere they could just be 3 people, human, Draconis, and hybrid, figuring out if they fit together. Because somehow, impossibly, Marcus thought they just might. 3 weeks had passed since that eventful first date, and Marcus Chen found himself standing outside the diplomatic quarters' main security checkpoint, holding a bouquet of Martian crystal blossoms and a box of dragon-safe treats. The flowers shimmered with an inner light, their petals changing color with the angle of the sun. He'd specifically chosen them because the florist mentioned they were a favorite among Draconis visitors. The security process was indeed intense, as Sarah had warned. He underwent 3 separate scans, submitted to a blood test, and answered what felt like 100 questions about his intentions. The guards, a mix of human marines and Draconis warriors, regarded him with professional scrutiny. "You're here to see Dr. Drake?" the human guard asked, checking his list. "Yes, she's expecting me." The Draconis warrior, scales shimmering bronze in the afternoon light, leaned forward. His voice was like grinding stones. "You are the engineer who dates the Guardian's daughter?" Marcus wasn't sure which title surprised him more, that Sarah was called the Guardian, or that he was already known among the Draconis. Yes, I suppose I am." The warrior's reptilian features shifted into what might have been approval. "The young flame speaks well of you. Do not prove her wrong." After clearing security, Marcus walked through the diplomatic quarter, marveling at the blended architecture. Buildings seemed to grow from the ground like organic crystals, their surfaces catching and refracting light in impossible ways. Human and Draconis design elements merged seamlessly, creating something entirely new. Sarah's apartment building stood near the quarter's heart, its facade covered in living scales that regulated temperature and air quality. As Marcus approached, he saw Lyra pressed against a window on the 3rd floor, waving enthusiastically. By the time he reached their door, it was already opening. Lyra bounded out, wearing a dress that complemented her scales perfectly. "Marcus, you're exactly on time. Mom's been pacing for 20 minutes. "I have not been pacing," Sarah's voice called from inside. She appeared in the doorway, and Marcus felt his breath catch. She wore casual clothes, jeans, and a soft sweater, but somehow looked more beautiful than she had in her formal dress. "These are for you," Marcus said, offering the flowers. "Both of you, actually." The florist said they're safe for mixed-species households. Sarah's face lit up. Crystal blossoms. Oh, Marcus, these are gorgeous. And expensive. You didn't have to. I wanted to. He interrupted gently. And these. He handed the box to Lyra. Are Draconis safe treats from that specialty bakery near the spaceport. Lyra opened the box reverently. Fire gems. Mom never lets me have these. They're too sugary. Special occasions call for special treats, Sarah said, her eyes soft as she looked at Marcus. Come in, please. Their apartment was a warm blend of human comfort and Draconis aesthetics. The walls shifted color subtly, responding to the occupants' moods. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with texts in multiple languages. Children's art decorated the refrigerator, some clearly Lyra's work, depicting dragons and spaceships and families holding hands. Your home is beautiful, Marcus said, taking in the space. It's temperature-controlled for Lyra, Sarah explained. She runs hotter than full humans, especially when she's excited or upset. I set my pillow on fire once, Lyra announced proudly, during a nightmare, which is why we now have flame-retardant everything, Sarah added, arranging the crystal blossoms in a vase. Over the past 3 weeks, they'd managed several dates, some with Lyra, some without. Marcus had learned so much about their unique family dynamic. Sarah's work often called her away at odd hours, dealing with medical emergencies or diplomatic health crises. Lyra split her time between regular school and special lessons with Draconis tutors who helped her understand her dual heritage. So, Marcus said, settling onto the couch as Lyra showed him her latest school project. A model of the Draconis home system made from household items. Ready for the Festival of Lights tonight? The Festival of Lights was a Draconis celebration that had been adapted for the colony, celebrating the first successful human Draconis hybrid births. It was also, significantly, Lyra's favorite holiday. I've been ready all week, Lyra bounced excitedly. This year, they're letting the hybrid children do the fire dance. I've been practicing with cousin Zara. Cousin? Marcus asked, looking to Sarah for clarification. Not biologically, Sarah explained, sitting beside him on the couch. But the Draconis consider all hybrid children to be family. Zara's mother is the Draconis trade representative. How many hybrid children are there? On this colony, 12. In the entire solar system, maybe 40. Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. We're still learning so much about genetic compatibility. Each successful birth teaches us more. Mom's writing a paper about it, Lyra said. She's famous in xenobiology journals. Hardly famous, Sarah protested, but her cheeks pinked with pleasure. As they prepared to leave for the festival, Marcus helped Lyra with her ceremonial cape, a beautiful garment that seemed to be woven from starlight itself. It was my father's, Lyra explained, stroking the fabric reverently. He wore it when he first met Mom. It's beautiful, Marcus said, adjusting the clasps carefully. Mom says you remind her of him sometimes, Lyra mentioned casually. Not physically, but in how you see things. Marcus glanced at Sarah, who was suddenly very interested in finding her keys. How so? He asked Lyra. She says Dad looked at the universe and saw connections where others saw differences, like you do. Before Marcus could process this, Sarah announced it was time to go. They walked through the quarter together, joining streams of others, heading toward the central plaza. The diversity was stunning. Humans, Draconis, and the rare, precious hybrids who bridged both worlds. Marcus noticed how other hybrids gravitated toward Lyra, children with their own unique blend of features. Some had scales like hers, others had the distinctive Draconis eyes or elongated limbs. All carried themselves with a grace that seemed inherent to their dual nature. The plaza had been transformed into a wonderland of light and color. Floating orbs cast rainbow patterns across the gathering crowd. Food stalls offered delicacies from both worlds, and musicians played instruments that created harmonies impossible for single-species ears to fully appreciate. Dr. Drake. A Draconis matron approached, her scales a deep, sapphire blue. She stood at least 8 feet tall, her presence commanding yet warm. And little Lyra. You look radiant tonight. Ambassador Silthra, Sarah greeted warmly. May I introduce Marcus Chen? Marcus, Ambassador Silthra, is the head of cultural exchange. The ambassador's golden eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made him feel utterly transparent. Ah, the engineer who courts our guardian. I have heard whispers. Good whispers, I hope, Marcus managed, offering a respectful bow, as Sira had taught him. Indeed, Thandar's daughter speaks highly of you. In our culture, the approval of offspring carries great weight. She turned to Lyra. Are you prepared for the fire dance, little flame? Yes, Ambassador. I've been practicing every day. Excellent. Your father would be proud. The ambassador's gaze returned to Marcus. You will watch, yes? It is a sight few humans have witnessed. I'd be honored. As the ambassador moved on, Sarah slipped her hand into Marcus's. She called you guardian again. What does that mean exactly? Sarah looked uncomfortable. It's a Draconis title. After Thandar died, they needed someone to continue his work. Someone who understood both species and could protect the hybrid children. They chose me. Protect them from what? Before Sira could answer, a commotion erupted near one of the vendor stalls. Raised voices, a crash, and then someone shouting, "Abomination!" Security moved quickly, but Marcus saw what happened. A group of human protesters had infiltrated the festival, carrying signs with hateful slogans about racial purity and the dangers of interspecies relationships. One protester, a man with wild eyes, pointed directly at Lyra. Those things shouldn't exist. They're unnatural. Without thinking, Marcus stepped in front of Lyra, shielding her with his body. He felt Sira beside him, her stance, protective and fierce. "Hey!" the man shouted, advancing toward them. "You're the race traitor dating that." He never finished the sentence. A wall of heat suddenly pressed against Marcus's back, and the protester's eyes went wide with fear. Marcus turned to see 3 adult Draconis had formed a protective circle around them, their scales glowing with internal fire. "You dare," one of them rumbled, "to threaten a child at our sacred festival?" Security arrived then, efficiently removing the protesters, but the damage was done. Marcus could feel Lyra trembling behind him, not with fear but with a rage that made the air around her shimmer with heat. "Lyra, breathe," Sira said calmly, kneeling beside her daughter. "Remember your exercises, cool thoughts." "They called me a thing," Lyra said, her voice small and hurt. "They're idiots," Marcus said firmly, kneeling on her other side. "You're not a thing. You're extraordinary." Lyra looked at him, golden eyes swimming with unshed tears. "Some humans really hate us, don't they? Some humans fear what they don't understand," Sira said gently. "But look around, sweetheart. Look how many people are here celebrating you and your cousins." It was true. The crowd had closed protectively around all the hybrid children, humans and Draconis united in their support. Someone started clapping, a slow, determined rhythm that spread through the plaza. Soon, the entire gathering was applauding, showing their support for the hybrid children. Ambassador Silthra's voice rose above the crowd, magically amplified. "We will not let hatred mar our celebration. Tonight, we honor the bridge builders, the ones who show us that love transcends form. The fire dance will proceed." The crowd cheered, and Lyra straightened, wiping her eyes. "I won't let them ruin this," she declared, with a determination that reminded Marcus of her mother. As the hybrid children gathered for their performance, Sarah leaned against Marcus. "This is why the Guardian title exists," she said quietly. "There are people who see the hybrids as threats to human purity, others who view them as weapons or experiments. My job is to protect them, to ensure they grow up safe and loved. That's a heavy responsibility." "It is. But it's also a privilege. These children represent hope for both species. They're proof we can be more than we are separately." The music began, an otherworldly melody that seemed to resonate in Marcus's chest. The hybrid children took their positions, Lyra among them, her earlier distress replaced by focused concentration. What followed was pure magic. The children began to move in perfect synchronization, their bodies leaving trails of light in the air. As they danced, small flames appeared, controlled, beautiful, artistic. They wove patterns of fire and light that told a story. The meeting of 2 species, initial fear and mistrust, gradual understanding, and finally, unity. Lyra spun and leaped with the others. Her control, remarkable for her age, fire bloomed from her hands in delicate flowers, raced along her arms in spiraling patterns, crowned her head in a wreath of golden flames that never touched her hair. "She's incredible," Marcus breathed. "She practices constantly," Sarah said, pride evident in her voice. The Draconis tutors, say she has exceptional control for a hybrid her age. Usually, the fire doesn't manifest fully until puberty. The dance reached its crescendo, all 12 children creating a unified pattern of flame that formed the symbol of the colony. A dragon and a human figure intertwined. The crowd erupted in applause. As the children took their bows, Lyra searched the crowd until she found them, her face beaming. Marcus waved enthusiastically, and she practically glowed with happiness. After the performance, they explored the festival together. Marcus tried Dracona's flame fruit, which made his tongue tingle pleasantly, and watched Sarah demonstrate a traditional human dance to curious Dracona's younglings. Lyra introduced him to her hybrid cousins, each unique and wonderful in their own way. "This is Marcus," she announced proudly to a boy with crystalline scales and human features. "He's dating my mom, and he protected me from the mean people." The boy, who couldn't have been older than 10, regarded Marcus solemnly. "Will you protect all of us?" The question caught Marcus off guard. He looked at the small group of hybrid children, all watching him with eyes that held too much wisdom for their ages. "If you'll let me," he said finally. Yes, something shifted in their expressions. Acceptance, perhaps even hope. Later, as the festival wound down, they found a quiet spot overlooking the plaza. Lyra was drowsy from excitement and the energy expenditure of the fire dance, leaning against Marcus's shoulder as they watched the floating lights. "I should probably tell you," Sarah said quietly, "that getting involved with us means getting involved with all of this. The politics, the protection detail, the protests. It's not an easy life." Marcus considered this, looking down at Lyra's peaceful face, then at Sarah's worried expression. "I fix broken systems for a living," he said. "I travel between worlds and make sure people get where they're going safely. This feels like an extension of that work, helping build bridges, protecting something precious and new." "We're complicated," Sarah warned. "Our lives are perfect," Marcus interrupted. "Not perfect as in without challenges, but perfect as in exactly where I want to be." Sarah's eyes shimmered. "You barely know us. I know enough. I know you're brilliant and dedicated and fierce in protecting what you love. I know Lyra is remarkable and brave, and has already changed how I see the universe. I know that when those protesters appeared, my first instinct was to protect her. And that felt more right than anything I've done in years. Marcus, I'm not saying I'm ready for everything all at once, but I'm saying I want to try. I want to be part of this family you've built. This bridge between worlds you're creating." Before Sarah could respond, Lyra stirred, mumbling something in what sounded like Draconis. "What did she say?" Marcus asked. Sarah smiled, tears finally spilling over. She said, "Family heart complete." It's a Draconis concept that doesn't translate well. Essentially, it means finding the missing piece that makes a family whole. Marcus pulled them both closer, feeling the truth of those alien words in his bones. The festival lights danced around them, human and Draconis mingling in harmony. And he thought about bridges. Not just between worlds, but between hearts. "There's something else," Sarah said after a long moment. "The Draconis Council wants to meet you. Officially. Because I'm dating the Guardian? Because you stood between danger and a hybrid child without hesitation. That means something to them. To us." Marcus pressed a kiss to her temple. "When?" "Next week. Are you ready for that level of formal alien diplomacy? As long as you're there to translate, I'll manage." Lyra stirred again, this time opening her golden eyes. "Are we going home?" "Soon, sweetheart," Sarah said. "Is Marcus coming?" Sarah looked at him questioningly. "If you'll have me," he said. Lyra sat up, suddenly more awake. "For dinner? We have leftover stir-fry, and Mom made her special cake. I'd love to." As they walked back through the now quiet diplomatic quarter, Marcus felt the weight of the evening settling around him. He'd made a choice tonight, one that would change the trajectory of his life. Dating Sarah meant more than romantic dinners and stolen kisses. It meant becoming part of something larger, a guardian to hybrid children, a bridge between species, a protector of a new kind of family. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it filled him with a sense of purpose he'd been missing. Back at their apartment, they fell into an easy domesticity. Marcus helped reheat dinner while Sarah got Lyra ready for bed. He could hear them talking in the bathroom. Lyra's excited chatter about the festival, mixed with Sarah's gentle reminders about brushing teeth properly. "Marcus," Lyra called out. Will you read me a story? He glanced at Sarah, who nodded with a soft smile. She has a favorite book about dragon pilots. Fair warning, she'll correct your pronunciation of the Draconis words. The bedroom was a delightful mix of little girl and dragon heritage. Stuffed animals shared space with crystal formations. Glow-in-the-dark stars covered the ceiling, but they moved in accurate constellation patterns. Lyra climbed into bed, clutching a plush dragon that looked well-loved. This is Mr. Scales. He was my first toy. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, taking the offered book. Dragon Pilots of the Outer Rings. Sounds exciting. It's the best. The main character is like me, half and half. She saves everyone with her special abilities. As Marcus read, carefully pronouncing the Draconis terms, and accepting Lyra's gentle corrections, he was struck by the intimacy of the moment. This trust, being allowed into their nighttime routine, being part of their family rhythm, felt like a gift. By the third chapter, Lyra was fighting sleep. Marcus? Yes? The kids were right to ask if you'd protect all of us. We need protectors. You have your mom. She's pretty fierce, but she needs protecting too sometimes. Lyra's eyes were already closing. That's what Dad did. He protected everyone. Marcus smoothed her hair gently, feeling the tiny scales hidden among the strands. I'll do my best to live up to that standard. You will, she mumbled, already half asleep. Dragon's honor. He finished the chapter even though she was fully asleep, then carefully extracted himself from the room. He found Sarah in the kitchen. 2 mugs of tea waiting. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For tonight. For not running when things got complicated. For reading to her. For, she gestured helplessly. Everything. Marcus took his mug, then took her hand. Can I tell you something? She nodded. My whole life. I've been fixing things, making sure ships run properly, that life support systems function, that people get from point A to point B safely. It's good work, important work, but it always felt like something was missing. He squeezed her hand gently. Tonight, standing between Lyra and those protesters, being part of your world. It felt like I found what I've been looking for, not just a relationship, but a purpose, a family that needs protecting, a future worth building. Sarah set down her mug and stepped into his arms. You know, it'll only get more complicated. The council meeting is just the beginning. There are political factions who oppose human Draconis integration. There are scientists who want to study the children. There are, Sarah, he interrupted gently. I'm an engineer. I like complicated problems, especially when solving them means protecting something precious. She kissed him then, soft and sweet with an edge of desperation. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. Thandar would have liked you, she whispered. I hope so. I hope he'd trust me with his family. Our family, Sarah corrected. If you're sure about this, it's our family. Marcus thought about the evening, the festival lights, Lyra's fierce determination, the way both human and Draconis had moved to protect the children. He thought about bridges and connections and the courage it took to love across difference. I'm sure, he said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. They stood there in the kitchen, holding each other as the city lights twinkled beyond the window. Somewhere in the apartment, Lyra slept peacefully, dreaming perhaps of fire dances and dragon pilots. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, the council meeting, continued protests, the ongoing work of building understanding between species. But tonight, in this moment, they were simply a family finding its shape, human, Draconis, and hybrid, complex and beautiful, and worth every challenge that would come. Marcus thought again about the Draconis phrase Lyra had mumbled at the festival. Family heart complete. Yes, he thought, that's exactly what this was, the missing piece sliding into place, making something whole that had been waiting to exist. As if reading his thoughts, Sarah smiled. Welcome to our complicated, wonderful life, Marcus Chen. Nowhere I'd rather be, he replied, and sealed the promise with another kiss. The Draconis council chamber existed in a space that hurt human eyes to look at directly. The walls seemed to breathe, shifting between states of matter in ways that defied physics. Marcus stood beside Sarah, wearing the formal robes she'd helped him select. Human in cut but woven with Draconis thread that shimmered with his heartbeat. Remember, Sierra whispered. Look them in the eye, speak truthfully. And whatever you do, don't show fear. They can smell it. No pressure, Marcus muttered, earning a small smile from her. Lyra stood on his other side, wearing ceremonial robes of her own. At 7 years old, she'd had a birthday in the 6 months since he'd officially become part of their lives. She carried herself with a dignity that made her seem older. You'll do fine, she assured him, slipping her hand into his. They already like you, Ambassador Silthra told me. The massive doors opened with a sound like singing crystal, and they entered the chamber. 5 Draconis elders sat in a semicircle, each one ancient and powerful. Their scales ranged from deep obsidian to brilliant pearl, and their eyes held the weight of centuries. At the center sat the eldest, a Draconis whose scales seemed to contain actual stars. Marcus had been briefed. This was Vithera the Eternal, one of the first Draconis to make contact with humanity. Marcus Chen. Vithera's voice resonated through the chamber and possibly through dimensions. Approach. Marcus walked forward, Sierra and Lyra remaining where they stood. He stopped at the designated spot and bowed as Sierra had taught him. Not subservient, but respectful. You seek formal recognition as guardian consort, Vithara stated. You wish to be acknowledged as protector of the hybrid young and mate to our human guardian. I do, eldest. The position you seek has been held by only one before, Thandar the Bridge Builder. His loss still echoes through both our peoples. Why should we entrust his legacy to a human who builds machines? Marcus had prepared for this question, but standing before these ancient beings, his prepared words felt inadequate. So he spoke from the heart. Because machines are just another kind of bridge, he said. Every ship I've worked on, every system I've repaired, has been about connecting people across the vast distances of space, making sure they arrive safely, that life continues even in the void. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But I've learned that the most important bridges aren't made of metal and circuits. They're made of understanding, protection, and love. Thandar built a bridge between your people and mine with his life and his love. I'm not trying to replace him. I'm trying to continue his work, to maintain and strengthen the bridge he gave his life creating. Pretty words, rumbled another elder. Scales the color of molten bronze, but words are air. What of action? 6 months ago, at the Festival of Lights, he stood between hatred and our young. Ambassador Silthra spoke from her position to the side, without hesitation, without regard for his own safety. This is not the only time. Tell them of the laboratory incident, Guardian. Sarah stepped forward slightly. 3 months ago, protesters attempted to storm my research facility. They wanted to destroy my work on hybrid genetics, claiming it was an abomination. Marcus was visiting for lunch when they broke through security. And? Vithara prompted. He held them off long enough for security to respond. He took a plasma burn to his shoulder, protecting the genetic samples that could help future hybrid children survive and thrive. He still bears the scar. Scars, another elder mused, this one with scales like silver water, are the universe's way of keeping score. Show us, engineer. Marcus hesitated, then loosened his robe to reveal his left shoulder. The plasma burn had left a distinctive mark, a starburst pattern that looked almost like Draconis script. The elders exchanged glances, communicating in ways Marcus couldn't interpret. The mark of a protector, the silver elder noted, earned in defense of our future. Interesting. More interesting, Vithara said, is what our sensors tell us about your biological harmony with the Guardian and her daughter. Lyra Thandar Drake. Step forward. Lyra walked to Marcus's side with perfect poise. Yes, eldest, your flames have grown stronger since this human joined your family unit. Your control has improved. Your harmonic resonance has stabilized. Explain. Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. Marcus makes us complete, she said simply. When he's around, Mom doesn't worry so much. So I don't worry about her worrying. When I have nightmares about the protesters, he tells me stories about brave engineers who fixed broken things until they work again. He says I'm not broken, just beautifully complex. And you trust him with your mother's heart? And with mine, Lyra said firmly. He reads to me in Draconis, even though the words are hard for his human throat. He learned to cook flame root soup when I was sick. He stood between me and danger. Her golden eyes blazed with conviction. He is family. The word rang through the chamber with a power that made the walls pulse. The child speaks a profound truth, Vithara acknowledged. In our culture, family bonds recognized by the young carry sacred weight. But there is another test, Marcus Chen. One that cannot be avoided. The chamber suddenly darkened, lit only by the natural luminescence of Draconis scales. Marcus felt the temperature rise dramatically. The guardian consort must prove they can withstand the presence of a Draconis in full emotional release, Vithara explained. Thandar's greatest feat was not his scientific work or his diplomacy. It was his ability to stand in the fire of our rage, our grief, our joy, and not be consumed. Can you do the same, engineer? Marcus understood now. This wasn't about physical endurance. It was about emotional resonance. The Draconis communicated through energy and heat, as much as words. To be guardian consort meant being able to withstand and understand those communications. I'm ready, he said. What followed was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. The elder's emotions washed over him in waves of heat and sensation. First came rage, the burning fury of a species that had watched their children face prejudice. The heat was almost unbearable, but Marcus thought of Lyra facing those protesters and found his own anger rising to meet theirs. Not consumed by it, but matching it, understanding it. Then came grief. The deep, aching loss of Thandar, of other bridges broken too soon. This heat was different, a slow burn that threatened to hollow him out from inside. But Marcus had his own grief. Parents lost young, opportunities missed, years of loneliness. And he let it mingle with theirs. Finally came joy. The fierce, protective joy of seeing hybrid children dance in fire, of watching two species learn to love, of hope for a future written in mixed blood and blended cultures. This heat was the most intense, threatening to overwhelm him with its brightness. Through it all, Marcus held his ground. More than that, he began to understand. The Draconis didn't just feel emotions. They experienced them as living things, as forces of nature. To love a Draconis, or someone of Draconis blood, meant learning to dance in that fire. He thought of Sarah, brilliant and fierce, carrying the weight of two species' hopes. He thought of Lyra, brave and bright, refusing to let hatred dim her flames. He thought of the family they'd built together over these months. Movie nights where Lyra literally heated the popcorn with her hands. Quiet evenings working together, Sarah, on her research while he reviewed ship schematics, Lyra doing homework that switched between human calculus and Draconis harmonic theory. Enough, Vithara commanded, and the emotional barrage ceased. Marcus swayed slightly but remained standing. He was drenched in sweat, his formal robes clinging to him, but he was whole, more than whole. He felt expanded, as if his capacity for feeling had grown to accommodate new wavelengths of emotion. Remarkable, the Bronze Elder murmured. He didn't just endure. He resonated, like a tuning fork finding its frequency. The bond is genuine, the Silver Elder agreed. His biological readings show true harmonic integration. He has become compatible. Vithara rose from her seat, all 12 feet of ancient dragon moving with surprising grace. She approached Marcus, lowering her great head to look him in the eye. You have passed the trials, Marcus Chen. But know this, the title of Guardian Consort is not merely ceremonial. You will be expected to stand for all hybrid children. Not just Lyra. You will face hatred from your own species and skepticism from ours. You will be a bridge yourself. And bridges bear weight from both sides. Do you accept this burden? Marcus met those ancient eyes steadily. I accept it gladly, eldest. Not as a burden, but as an honor. Then kneel. Marcus dropped to one knee. Vithara extended one claw, glowing with internal fire, and touched it to his shoulder. The same shoulder that bore his protective scar. Heat flowed through him, but it didn't burn. Instead, it felt like coming home. Rise, Marcus Chen, Guardian Consort, Bridgekeeper, Father Heart to the hybrid young. Vithara's voice carried formal weight. You are recognized before the Council and the Cosmos. Let any who would challenge this bond answer to the full fury of the Draconis people. The formal portion concluded. The atmosphere in the chamber shifted. The elders relaxed slightly, their scales dimming to more comfortable levels. Now, Vithara said with what might have been amusement, Lyra has requested to show us something. Surprise, she called it. Lyra beamed and pulled a small device from her robes. Marcus helped me build it. It's a harmonic stabilizer for hybrid children who have trouble controlling their fire. She activated the device, and a gentle field emanated from it. Marcus watched with pride as she demonstrated how it could help young hybrids regulate their temperature and prevent accidental flame bursts. We've already tested it with the younger kids, Lyra explained excitedly. Zara's little brother stopped setting his toys on fire. An engineer's solution to a biological challenge, the Bronze Elder noted approvingly. The bridge building has already begun. After the demonstration, they were invited to share a meal with the council, a rare honor. Marcus found himself discussing propulsion theory with the Silver Elder, who turned out to have a passion for spacecraft design. Sarah debated genetic theory with Vithara, their conversation slipping between human and Draconis as concepts required. Lyra, meanwhile, had climbed into the Bronze Elder's lap and was teaching him a human card game, giggling as his massive claws struggled with the tiny cards. "You have done well, Guardian," Silthra said quietly to Sarah, as they watched Marcus help the Silver Elder sketch ship modifications on a crystalline tablet. "This one understands building more than bridges. He builds families," Sarah agreed, her love evident in her gaze. Piece by piece, connection by connection. As the evening concluded, Vithra pulled Marcus aside. "A word of warning, Guardian Consort. Your recognition today will not go unnoticed by those who oppose integration. There are forces, human and Draconis both, who see the hybrid children as threats to the purity of both species. Your family will need your protection more than ever. I understand, eldest. We've already increased security measures and I've been working with the Colony Defense Force to—" "No," Vithara interrupted. "You misunderstand. The threat is not just physical. There are those who would use law, politics, even science itself to tear apart what you protect. Be vigilant on all fronts." The warning proved prophetic. Within a week of the ceremony, challenges began arriving. A human supremacist group filed a legal challenge claiming Syrah's research violated genetic modification laws. A Draconis purist faction formally protested Marcus's appointment as guardian consort, claiming no human could truly understand their children's needs. Marcus threw himself into the fight with the same determination he brought to engineering problems. He worked with lawyers to defend Sarah's research, testified before colonial committees about the hybrid children's rights, and even faced down a Draconis challenger who questioned his worthiness in single combat, thankfully ceremonial, though Marcus still ended up with singed eyebrows. Through it all, their family life continued. Marcus officially moved into their apartment, adding his own touches. A workbench where he and Lyra could tinker, better climate controls for the varying temperature needs, reinforced furniture that could withstand both Lyra's occasional flame bursts and family wrestling matches. One evening, 3 months after the council ceremony, Marcus found Sarah on their balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of fire. "Rough day?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "The medical board is questioning my ethics again," she sighed. "They claim my emotional investment in the hybrid children compromises my scientific objectivity." "Idiots," Marcus said firmly. "Your emotional investment is exactly what makes your work so effective. You're not studying specimens, you're caring for children. Try explaining that to a board of doctors who see Lyra and her cousins as fascinating anomalies rather than people. Then we'll keep fighting until they understand," Marcus said simply. "That's what we do. We build bridges, even when others try to tear them down." Sarah turned in his arms, looking up at him with eyes that held storms. "How do you do it? Stay so steady when everything feels like it's falling apart?" "Because I know what we're building is worth it," Marcus replied. "Every time Lyra laughs, every time one of the hybrid kids masters their abilities, every time I see humans and Draconis working together, that's proof we're on the right path." "Marcus Chen, eternal optimist," Sarah teased, but her smile was fond. "Marcus Chen, practical engineer," he corrected. "I've seen what happens when systems fail because people gave up on them. I won't let that happen to our family." The door to the balcony burst open, and Lyra rushed out, clutching a tablet. "Mom, Marcus, look, I got accepted." "Accepted to what, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, though her smile suggested she already knew. "The advanced engineering program. The one Marcus recommended me for. They said my harmonic stabilizer design showed exceptional promise and innovation. She practically glowed with pride. Marcus swept her up in a hug, spinning her around as she laughed. I knew you'd get in. You're going to be an amazing engineer. Like you? Lyra asked hopefully. Better than me, Marcus assured her. You understand both biological and mechanical systems in ways I'm still learning. As they celebrated Lyra's achievement, Marcus caught Sira wiping away tears. He raised an eyebrow questioningly. Happy tears, she assured him. Thandar would have been so proud. She has his mind for innovation, but your patience for building things properly, and your determination to protect what matters, Marcus added, pulling both of them close. They stood together on the balcony, watching the city lights begin to twinkle below. The diplomatic quarter was peaceful tonight, but Marcus knew challenges awaited tomorrow. More legal battles, more protests, more people who couldn't see the beauty in what they were building, but none of that mattered in this moment. What mattered was Lyra excitedly explaining her plans for new inventions, Sira's hand warm in his. The life they'd built together against all odds. Hey, Lyra said suddenly, looking up at both of them. Can I ask you something? Always, Sira assured her. When are you two going to get married? Because Zara's mom says human marriages are fascinating, and I want to design a dress that's fireproof but still pretty. And maybe we could have the ceremony in both human and draconis traditions. And, breathe, little flame. Marcus laughed, even as he felt Sira stiffen slightly beside him. They hadn't talked about marriage, not formally. Their relationship had evolved so naturally around the necessities of protection and family that traditional milestones had been overlooked. That's something we should discuss, Sira said carefully. Why? Lyra asked with the brutal honesty of childhood. You love each other. Marcus is already my dad in everything but name. The council recognized him. What else is there to discuss? Marcus met Sira's eyes over their daughter's head. In them, he saw his own thoughts reflected. That Lyra was right. That they'd already built something stronger than many marriages. That perhaps it was time to make official what their hearts had known for months. You know what? Marcus said, making a decision that felt as natural as breathing. Lyra's right. He dropped to one knee right there on the balcony, still holding Lyra with one arm while taking Sira's hand with the other. Seraphina Drake, guardian of the hybrid children, brilliant scientist, fierce protector, love of my life. Will you marry me? Will you let me officially join this beautiful, complicated, perfect family you've built? Sarah's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Lyra, for once, was perfectly still. I don't have a ring, Marcus continued, because I didn't plan this. But I have something better. I have the promise that I'll stand beside you against any challenge. That I'll help raise Lyra and protect all the hybrid children. That I'll build bridges with you until the day I die. I promise to love you both with everything I have. Yes. Sarah interrupted, tears streaming down her face. Yes, of course. Yes. Lyra erupted in delighted flames, literally. Small, harmless fire danced around her as she hugged them both fiercely. We're getting married. Can I be in the wedding? Can we have fire dancers? Can Ambassador Silthra officiate? We can have whatever you want. Marcus laughed, standing and pulling both of them into his arms. But maybe we should plan it when you're not actively on fire? Oh. Lyra concentrated, and the flames dissipated. Sorry, happy flames are harder to control.